Sony could have made the PlayStation VR2 a must-have VR platform, but instead it has some of the weakest first-party support of any system I've ever seen. To this day, as far as I know, we've only gotten one first-party original game for the PlayStation VR2, and that's Horizon Call of the Mountain, and that game's good, but it's one game. There's been great third-party support, but I want to focus in on what PlayStation's first-party could and should have done differently. And look, I get VR is still a niche thing. They can't spend too much money on this, so the idea I have is crafted around a very affordable and realistic look at what they could have done. First thing, before anything else, there's a lot of PSVR1 games that people never played. I need you to port all of those to PSVR2 with better controls, with better performance. Great experiences like Astrobot Rescue Mission are still not available on PSVR2, and that's crazy. Second, do VR ports of your existing games. So Resistance 2 and 3 and KZ 2 and 3, but especially the third entry in both those franchises, would fit so perfectly as VR games. Especially for Resistance 3 and KZ 3, because both of those had 3D TV support and PlayStation Move control support. The jump to making those work in VR is not that far. This one would require a little bit more work, but I also think Shadow of the Colossus would have made an amazing VR port. Make it first person, make the controls work for the VR motion control controllers, and besides that, don't change anything. It'd just be a really cool thing to climb up a Colossus in VR. Step 3 is where we're going to need to spend some real money, but I'm still being realistic in my approach to this. It's hard to get exact numbers for video game budgets, but Half-Life Alyx looks like it costs anywhere between $30 million and $70 million. So let's split that down the middle and say a $50 million budget is perfectly reasonable for a quality VR experience. So let's say that we're going to create 5 brand new games for $300 million. That's $50 million for each game, plus an extra $50 million to play with wherever you need it. This is a lot of money, but your average AAA game is costing $250 million anyway, and if you're not willing to spend at least one AAA budget on 5 VR games, then why are you doing this at all? Typically, I am all about new IPs, but I think when it comes to VR, I think the real allure is, you know, this thing you already really like, imagine playing that in VR. I think that's probably the biggest sell to most people. It's just harder to get people interested in VR experiences with a brand new IP when they don't have a frame of reference. They did Horizon Call of the Mountain, so we can count that as one. Here are my other 4. Uncharted. I don't know how they have not done Uncharted game in VR. It would work so well. It would be so fun. Everything between climbing and combat in just the vistas and the things you explore and the puzzle solving, all of that can be translated so well into an original VR title. Number 3 is God of War. Throwing the Leviathan axe, swinging the Blaze of Chaos, ripping open chests, just having that power fantasy in VR would be so incredibly fun. I think you could probably find a way to place it somewhere in the story and just have flashbacks to the Greek era and tell most of the story there, while having a little bit of stuff in the current God of War so you can still use the Leviathan axe. Number 4 is Infamous. It would be so fun to use superpowers in a VR game, especially if it was open world sandbox and you could just play around with a bunch of different abilities. You can make a Cole, you can make a Delson, you can make a new character. It doesn't matter. There's something there. And number 5, I have Ratchet & Clank. These worlds are colorful, vibrant, fun to explore. All the different weapons are super cool and wacky. Doing platforming and hovering around with Clank on your back, I think would just be a really cool experience. And for all these franchises, just reimagine them for first-person VR. If you approach all these games and build them for VR from the ground up, I think you could have really, really fun games, and then you're getting the people who are already fans of those franchises. I still like my PSVR 2. I think there's a lot of fun experiences there, but they're all coming from the third parties. They're not coming from PlayStation's first party. And most of those experiences are also available on other headsets. But if they did everything that I just said in this video, it wouldn't cost that much money in the grand scheme of things, and it would be a much more compelling offer for a lot of people. But what's a franchise that you would like to see make its way to VR? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about VR headsets in general. And if you haven't already, give me a follow.